Hello, this is Christian Mo of Taosai Labs, and welcome to the October LithoBreak update. So we're going to start with an update on the life support. Ali's been working on this, getting it looking nice. And you can see the bottom section of the fusion reactor. This fusion reactor column extends all the way through the station, and so this is the first time you'll actually be able to see up close the first segment of it. Also in another corner is the medical area. So it's life support, it's got medical stuff. Yeah, Ali's doing a good job. This is not textured or anything, so it's very early. But it's still looking pretty cool as far as models go. So now for an update on the progress of the simulation and rendering. So here you can see the simulation grids are displaying in the simulation, but they're not actually rendering the simulation because they shouldn't be. So you can see the grids are displaying now. And let's see. Oh, we have something rendering. It's not the entire printer, but we have some parts. If you've been watching the stream, you'd know that I only got two parts migrated over. To the separating them between simulations and rendering. But those that I did migrate over are showing. Neat, right? And effectively, the simulation, which is running either locally or on a server, will not be rendering any of this stuff. It's only when you are actually playing it, the player, will it be rendering it wherever you are. So if you have two locations that are very far away, the only rendering information that is ever loaded is the rendering information for the spot that you're actively working on. Yeah, I'm geeking out here because it's a really cool solution. It's suited well for what we're doing. So we have the grids working. In the editor, I can place down any of the buildings in the simulation. The ores are completely over, finishing up the buildings and getting the rovers over. This ties into multiple sites because we can have multiple simulations stacked on top of each other, and they don't interact with each other. So like I can go and I can copy paste a simulation, and it's going to literally run separately from the other one right beneath it without interfering. It's the floating point error thing. You can't actually position multiple sites in their real location. So you have to combine them all into a single co-location. As long as they're separate and not interacting with each other, unless we want them to interact with each other, like having a shuttle go from spot to spot, then it will all work being combined. And this ties into multiplayer because if you have two people on two different sites, like physically or just in their console at two different sites, they can't be rendering the same information. So this means that we're going to have a single simulation running on the host or the server, depending upon how you have it set up. And just the simulation information from what someone needs is being transferred over, and just the rendering information is being displayed to each player separately. This also ties into Voxel Moons. When you set up a site, you're effectively going to be starting up another layer. So you'll take one of these simulations and just go copy paste sort of, and then it's going to generate the terrain, the unique terrain for that space, and it's going to start up the simulation. It won't have ores anymore because you'll actually be modifying the terrain itself to gather your ore. So when you're interacting with this simulation directly, you won't be interacting with the other ones. And you'll only be rendering this information from the new site that you just established. Each site will be established by placing down a communications tower. And then from that communications tower, it will decide how far you can extend your influence. So this week we also had a lot of questions and answers as this gets closer to experimental. And after the first initial drop into the experimental build, we're going to start working on new buildings. So what buildings are coming? That's the first question here. We're going to have the inert smelter and then an alloy furnace. And on top of all of this, we're going to have the production facilities that will actually take your ingot metals and make them into metal plates and tubes, etc. Forming, machining, all that fun stuff. And you'll be able to use multiple types of metal to make your plates and such, depending upon how durable you want to make your materials or your parts. How will the current buildings work with factories? The current buildings are going to either be allowed to be just on the surface of the moon, or you can build up a factory and place the building within that factory. There will be special buildings that will be just for factories. These will have access points for robotic arms and conveyors for moving the parts as they're being constructed from place to place. The next question is, how will designing factories work? And the designing of factories will work much like how you have it right now, where you place down pieces. But when you go into factory designing mode, it will have a special grid of factory components. What parts will be available in the initial release? There will be floor tiles, there will be ramp tiles, supports to go along with them, and then some roofing. Next question is, how will construction work? The construction will work much like it does for the other buildings. As in, the rovers will take pieces and place them within the factory, and you will see the factory actually construct out as you have planned it in the planning mode. Painting and decorations. We do plan for painting the factories, and then you'll be able to decorate your factory. You'll actually decorate the locations, decorate these factories in first person. So there'll be a separate inventory of things that you decorate your space with. Especially when this comes to creating habitats, where you not only have just floors and walls and roofs, but you have like airlocks and such. Another sip. Next question, what benefits come from constructing factories? So with the episode 2 update will come power. When you have a building that's not part of a factory, it will need power cables run to it. When you have a factory, however, those cables will be run automatically so that if the factory is powered, everything inside it is powered. As long as you have enough power to run the whole thing. What are the space requirements for factories? For this first initial launch, we won't have Voxel Moons yet. So you will need to find basically a nice flat terrain and construct a factory. Although you will be able to do ramps, so if you want to construct a factory on a hill, go for it. And there will be layers to it and everything. So we're going to have to do something like hiding anything that's rendering above a certain height. What parts and materials will be needed to construct factories? That's the next question. So you'll need to be making metal plates and forming the metal plates into the floor tiles that will then get, installed. You'll need to be making metal ingots and some of the, forming machines before you can make factories. what can be expected next is the next question. So next we will be working on getting the game back up to how playable it was before, but now with simulation running on its own layer and the rendering running separately. We'll have more information on that in the November update. Well, we need to finish up the mining scene rendering, and then also get the station scene rendering, because that is going to be a site as well, and get unloaded when you're on the moon and loaded back up, and it's going to save a lot of video memory. Yeah, I'm getting really excited for the Voxel Moon stuff. That's it for the October update. If there's any more questions, join us on Discord. I will happily answer. Stay safe in the verse. I'll see you next month.